Hello everyone. Obviously our heroes were very tired before the free day and they needed that free day. And if they're going to play the same way that they have played chess today, I suggest that we give them a free day every second day. Brilliant round today, excellent games, and the one that I chose for you is also very important for the general standing and the overall standing of this tournament and the Grand Prix tournament as well. It is the game Fabiano Caruana playing with the white piece against Hikaru Nakamura. Nakamura and Caruana were both on +1 prior to this round, and Nakamura had to risk and to play for the win with the black pieces, which he did by choosing the risky, well, not risky, it's quite a playable neither, but he chose quite a risky line against Fabiano, who on the top of that surprised him with the move bishop g5. This is something that he doesn't play that often. But as he revealed in the press conference after that, he said that he looked at this and he worked on that one, and on the top of that he wanted to surprise his opponent a little bit. So Nakamura chose the poison pole variation with the inserted moves h6 and bishop h4. This is quite a fashionable line. And after queen b6, Caruana decided to keep the pawn with the move e3. We all know that this capture is actually a gross mistake here, because after knight a4 the queen is trapped, and therefore there is no poison pawn operation actually. So Nakamura played bishop e7. Caruana replied with bishop f2, already threatening some discovered attacks with this knight, knight e6 or knight e5. Black went back with the queen, queen to f3, knight e7. Then long castle, b5, g4 and g5. All of this has been discussed recently in the game between Anish Giri against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. In that game, after h4, the Frenchman took on f4 as well, and after bishop e2, he didn't go for b4, but he played the move rook to g8, which was a novelty back then. But this novelty came out of insufficient preparation, as the Frenchman revealed after that, and he could have gotten into trouble if instead of rook g1, rook d to g1, Giri has played, I think, the other rook on g1. I don't really remember what he was saying in his analysis, but his position wasn't that great. It should be mentioned that the most obvious move in this situation, instead of the move rook g8, is the move knight e5. And this has been played in the male game, and this was the game in which Giri prepared against Maxime. That game, after queen takes f4, continued with knight g4, bishop g4, e5. And here, an important line is the one that happened in that game, knight e5, very important move. You will see what is the difference in a moment. And after knight e5, queen f3, bishop g4, queen g4, and queen to f3, white was better. In comparison to that, Nakamura first inserted the move b4, and only after a takes b4 did he play the move knight e5. Now the difference is that after queen f4, knight g4, bishop g4 and e5, if white continues with knight e5, just like in the previous line, he has an additional resource, and this is the capture on the e5, and on queen f3 knight takes b4. That's why these two moves have been inserted. The knight is going on b4, and it is black who is going into counterattack. Now the knight in particular is not moving because of the checkmate on c2, and all in all it is black who is clearly better. But Caruana was very well prepared, and he came up with a brilliant sacrifice, the move queen takes f6, and he even joked after that that everybody's sacrificing a queen here against Hikaru, so why couldn't he? Well, queen f6 is a typical sacrifice in the Sicilian. And here, in return for the sacrifice queen, he's getting two horses, the one on d5 and the one on f5. But as one of our famous Bulgarian international masters was joking, in situations like that, each of these horses is worth at least 10 million bucks. They're very good pieces, and indeed, look at them. They're not giving a single chance to these pieces to come out. Anytime that black trades something, things are getting worse. For example, if they take on f5, bishop takes f5. Caruana also mentioned this line. He said black is left without any counterplay, and he can little by little start pushing his pawns on the queen side. Indeed, black can hardly castle short, as he might get checkmated there, but at the same time he needs somehow to make use of the rooks. Even look at the rook, even if it comes on the open file, it can hardly do any harm to white, while white can consider trading it and going into counterattack himself. Ideas like bishop b6 and knight c7 are in the air, ideas like capturing here and there are also in the air, and the simple improvement of the position with king b1, c4 and b5, creating a pass pawn and pushing it into a queen would be the normal plan, which obviously Caruana was prepared for. So instead of waiting passively, Nakamura played rook b8 and he was searching for counterplay. Caruana took on f6 and took the pawn on d6 with the rook, which is the most obvious move. Well, the engines have found another way of winning this. Instead of taking with the rook, taking with the knight was even better. The idea being that after king f8, white has the brilliant move bishop f5, not letting this bishop hanging, and that's a move that white did not see. Obviously black did not see it neither. And it's amazing how tight the position is for the black pieces after knight takes f5. White is simply threatening rook d6 to trap the queen, and amazingly black cannot avoid this. Say for example rook d8, rook takes, queen takes, rook d1, and now if the queen goes on f6, there will be a check, and on king e8, which is the best line because on king g8 there is rook d6 and the queen is trapped anyway, it has nowhere to go. On king e8, rook d6, and the queen is gone. And as a result, white is going to have two pieces and a pawn for rook, which is completely winning for him. But even though Caruana missed this one, the move that he played in the game rook d6 was sufficient for big advantage. After bishop e6, he played rook d1, just bringing his pieces into the game and completely dominating the board. After short castle, he played h5 with the obvious intention of bishop h4, after which the queen will have to go to the very ugly h8 square. He also calculated the line in which black, for example, goes for counterplay with rook b4. Then after bishop h4, black can try to counterattack and to counter-sacrifice with queen h4. But the calculation, the pen, and the strong position of the white pieces is giving him a chance to start harvesting the pawns. First this one, then that one. The pin is still there, and white is up a pawn, so he is completely winning. What happened in the game was that instead of this, Nakamura played queen g5 check, luring the bishop on e3. It sounds counterintuitive, and indeed it makes well, awkward impression that he is giving the pawn on h6, but his position looks really very desperate. So Caruana took on h6. On king h8, he played bishop f5. There was another interesting move, knight takes f7 in this situation, which was probably also winning. But let's stick to the game. This is good enough for huge advantage for white, and the attempted counterplay by Nakamura, instead of that, rook f8 was the better move. After which Caruana intended to go b3, followed by king b1, and then take the pawn and slowly mount pressure and eventually win this. The idea of Nakamura was interesting and almost tactically justified. Unfortunately for him, Caruana saw it, and he played the move b5, which completely killed any counterplay, any chances, any random tactical ideas. Here is the idea. In case of knight f7, which is what white wanted to play anyway, black could have taken on f7 and on rook e6, queen b4. This attack with rook h6 followed by rook g1 check would be answered rook g7. And after bishop e6 check, king f8, instead of this move, rook h8 is the idea. And then black is not capturing on e6 because he's going to get checkmated. But rather than that, he goes king to d6. And if white captures on b8 at the moment, he is going to get checkmated himself. So this is where the queen is so nicely placed on b4. Checkmate is coming. Black has also threats. The queen is a queen, come on. It's a very strong piece. But actually, it's funny that Caruana also saw the winning line until one moment here. He saw bishop c5 is the best move, and after this capture, check and check. And again, the bishop is invincible because of the checkmate on h6. But for some reason, Caruana thought that here after rook b8, there is perpetual check. And only in the post-mortem, he realized that the g1 square is defended. But what to do? This happens to everyone. And the move that he played instead of this was neat enough and clever enough. He just diverted the queen from the b4 square. The queen went to e8, and then after knight f7 check, this whole line is way more impressive. And after rook h6, Nakamura resigned. Possible continuation would have been rook g8, then check, and another check. And in comparison to b4, in all these checks, white can simply take on b8 as there is no checkmate. The queen goes only to f1, and on f1 there is just one check. King d2 would be it. Well, if black captures on b8, okay, white has huge material advantage, plus he is still attacking, and there'll be soon checkmate coming. In fact, I think the angels were giving checkmate in 13 moves. This wasn't the only decisive game today. An important result was the one in the game between Veselin Topalov, who probably has the worst tournament of his life. He lost to the tournament leader Wesley So, and Wesley is still keeping the first position. He's on +3. Fabiano Caruana is on +2. The other decisive game of the day was between Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, who went on 50% after winning against Levon Aronian. So hopefully next time I will have a chance to make a game of Wesley So himself. He fully deserves that one. But for the time being, he can also enjoy his tournament and not get spoiled with my horrible remarks here. Okay guys, thank you all for watching this, and I'll see you next time.